Hi, I'm Pete. Welcome back to my channel.
This is video number 2, detailing the build of these custom built-in bookshelves.
I hope you find these videos enjoyable. If you do, please hit like and please remember to subscribe. Now, let's get started and let's have some fun.
I'm working with a new client to design, build, and install recessed bookcases based upon this drawing. In my first video, I showed the build and install of the base cabinets. This video will detail the build and install of the upper bookcases. The bookcases will be built from 3/4-inch birch plywood. I'll get 4 side panels from 1 sheet. Step 1 is to cut the sheet to the final bookcase height. Next, I use a router to cut 1/4-inch deep dados for the shelves. I make 2 passes, each 1/8 inch deep. There are many methods for cutting dados for bookshelves. I like to cut my dados first, and then rip the side panels to the desired width. Here are the finished dados with the proper shelf spacing. After a little cleanup, it's time to rip this panel into some more manageable sized pieces. I rip the side panels to their final dimension on the table saw. Once I'm finished ripping the side panels to their final dimension, I turn my attention to breaking down 3/4-inch plywood sheets to build the shelves. Once the plywood is broken down to some manageable dimensions, I head back to the table saw. I rip these pieces to a depth of 10.5 inches. Once my setup is dialed in, I begin cutting all 10 shelves. Now's a good time to do a test fit in the dados. Unfortunately, the fit's a bit tight, so I'm going to have to do some sanding. After a lot of sanding, I've got this one dialed in. Only 9 more dados to go. It's now back to the table saw to cut a rabbet for the recessed back panel. I'll use this dado stack from Freud to cut the rabbet into the side panels. I use this sacrificial fence when I cut rabbets on the table saw. With all my setups complete, it's time to start cutting rabbets. I check the dimensions with a scrap piece of 1/2 inch plywood. I sneak up to the final dimension, then cut the rabbets in all 4 side panels. I now head to the miter station to cut the shelves to their final length. With the shelves all cut to length, I do a dry fit on the right upper bookcase. I'm satisfied with the fit, so it's time for final assembly. I'm using Titebond 2 wood glue on the ends of the shelves and in the dados. It takes patience and a little convincing with the rubber mallet to get everything to line up. Once I have everything lined up correctly, I'll be shooting brads from the outside to hold everything in place and square while the glue sets up. I mark the center line of each shelf as a guide for shooting the brads. The brads help hold everything square while the glue sets up. I give the glue a couple hours to set up. I now focus my attention on the inset back panel made from 1/2 inch birch plywood. The back panel is glued and stapled in place. I'm using 1 1/4 inch staples for this project. It's a really good idea to mark the center line of your shelves on your back panel. One staple missing its mark will really ruin your day. This bookcase frame is done. It's now time to start the left side. In my first video, I detailed how the base cabinet had to be built around an existing chase. The left side upper bookcase will also need to be built around this chase. I pull out the template I used to build the left side base cabinet. The template will help me mark the position of cutouts on the shelves to fit around the chase. Once the shelves are marked, I go to the table saw to make the cuts. I now rip the left side panel to fit the notched shelves. After a test dry fit, it's time for final assembly. While the glue sets up, I'll start cutting the back panel. Just as before, I'm attaching the back panel with wood glue and 1 1/4 inch staples. Next, I'll cut some panels to cover those gaps on the left side. These bookcases will be painted, so I'm using 3/4 inch clear pine. I route a beveled edge on the outside exposed corner. I'm happy with the look and the fit. 1 panel down, 4 to go. Here's the bookcase with all 5 panels installed. I now rip some 1 1/4 inch poplar edging strips. These edging strips will help keep these 47-inch wide shelves from sagging under load. Left side complete, onto the right. Both bookcases are complete. It's now time for everyone's favorite activity, sanding. I start with 120 grit and work my way up to 180 grit. My Bosch multi-tool does a great job getting into those hard-to-reach corners. And here they are sitting on top of the base cabinets. I firmly attach these bookcases by screwing into studs in the rear wall and installing some pocket screws into the base cabinet. My next video will detail the final trim out, installation of the cabinet doors, and a view of the completed project.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and don't forget to hit that like button. I look forward to seeing you on future projects. Thanks again for stopping by.